back just as much and tenfold. Again, to Annie and her team, Garamila Mahagat, and enjoy the next couple of days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maura, and some practical information before we continue. You will find the restrooms straight across the gallery into the corridor and over the front side. Emergency exit down here at your right. Some of you can see the green sign. We will have a coffee break at 10, lunch at 12, and we leave the university at 3 p.m. for a field trip. I'll give you all necessary information later. But first, we will get to know the latest research result from the FLIARA project, presented by Maura, Thomas Kuhnen, Silvia Sedini, and Annie Bruce.
Bear with us. Nearly there. We can see it up here, but on the laptop in front of me, we're not seeing it. So. I hope this one. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. You didn't expect to see me back so quickly. Here I am. I promise this is not what's going to happen over the next few days. You won't see that much of me, I promise you. I'm going to give you a little look to start off with some of the work that we had done on the initial work package 1 of the actual FLIARA project itself. As some of you may and may not know, partners will know very, very well at this stage, but the project has been broken into different sections, which we call work packages. And the first one we're going to present today, and the title we've given it is Harnessing the FLIARA Framework, Ideas for Future Policy to Boost Women-Led Innovation, Rural and Farm Innovation. So I suppose we're at that stage now where a lot of the work that we've done on the different work packages is coming through to our ideas for policy. And in this particular work package for this morning, I'm going to look a little bit at the framework that we developed around the FLIARA project and how that has now come forward into some of the policy ideas that we have. So again, when we were building the framework for the project, for the FLIARA project, in our head all of the time was this idea that rural areas have a lot of challenges. And those challenges we see every single day of our lives, people who live in rural areas, people who work in rural areas. But in recent years, we've had a lot more challenges. We've had, for instance, the challenge of COVID. COVID presented many challenges for us. People who like to walk, like myself in the wood, it didn't present too many, but it did present a lot of strategic challenges. Climate change presents a lot of new challenges in and around rural areas as well. And to answer those challenges, as I've always said, everybody needs to come on board. But down through the years, even though women came on board within those challenges, a lot of the work that they did was very much overshadowed. It was very much forgotten about or not seen. And that was where we were with the FLIARA project. We wanted to establish, to ensure that women had a really responsive ecosystem built around them, to promote them, to make them visible, to protect them, to create policies to make sure that those women were supported as much as they possibly could. So that was really what the FLIARA project was about. So it has combined, all of the work has combined future studies with the case study methodology, alongside network building, policy benchmarking, and of course, this community of practice that we're here with for this couple of days. But all of that work was underpinned initially by the development of a conceptual framework. And that conceptual framework and assessment framework was led out by us in Galway. It was led out by us in Galway, but it was very much worked on and co-created by every single partner that we had on the FLIARA team. So in this particular work package, we worked through a series of work areas, and those ranged from knowledge reviews, conceptual frameworks, case study assessment frameworks, policy and law assessment, and the initial guidelines around policy benchmarking. So that was the frame of work that we had in work package 1. When we developed the conceptual framework, we went to every partner and we went to them and we said, what are the key concepts you have in your head in and around FLIARA? And we worked with all of the different partners to co-create all of these different key concepts. And they came down to ideas around rural perspectives, gender perspectives, resilience, sustainability, innovation, policy, and governance. So those were the key areas that guided us in our work in and around FLIARA. And again, all of the partners developed this work via work package 1. We all came up with concept notes that were all delivered in a deliverable at the end of year 1. The knowledge review in many respects replicated what we had done in some of the conceptual framework. And again, we looked at areas of the rural context. We looked at areas of sustainability, rural innovation, female entrepreneurship. Where are these female entrepreneurs? What are they doing? What is the work that they're doing now? How recognized are they in some regions and not in others? Digital and ecological entrepreneurship was something that was identified within the call itself at the very, very beginning. So we did quite a good bit of work looking into this as well, where women were placed within this whole idea of ecological entrepreneurship. The foresight and trend analysis that was going to be carried out in work package 2, and Thomas is going to talk to you about that in a few moments. We looked at this from the very beginning in work package 1, and we looked at how this would work and how it would fit into the bigger part of the project. We also looked within this knowledge review of how relevant the EU practices were to all of the work that was going on for gender at this particular time. Again, this deliverable was delivered at the end of year 1. Policy and legal frameworks were something that we also looked at. And I suppose from the word go, we looked at all of the partners, and in all of the partners, we looked at each of the countries. And again, the support for women-led innovation in farming and in rural areas. Where was it as far as the policy and legal frameworks were concerned? So we carried out a scoping review of the EU and national policy frameworks. Again, each partner was engaged in this work. Each partner looked at their own country and looked to see a scoping exercise in and around the review of their own country when it came to policy and legal frameworks that were relevant to women, and relevant in particular to women in rural areas and women on farms. And again, there was a focus on the direct and indirect supports that were already there for women. So I suppose the key areas that were involved or identified through all of this work were innovation policies that were in each country, family and social supports that were in each country, education and skills. What education and skills supports were there for women? What networking opportunities are in each country for women? And the empowering and gender inclusion policies that are there as well in each country for women. And then looking at this on a whole EU perspective to seeing exactly what kind of support system was there. So I think that work, and again, Aisling Murta from the University in Galway led out on quite a lot of this work and connected with each of the partners. So again, a huge amount of work that was delivered at the end of that first cohort of reviews. And I suppose just to say, from our own perspective as a team, all of our first round of reviews went in at month 18. And I think for me on the FLIARA project, that I think it was a great day for us, because I think every deliverable that went in was accepted by the review team and the commission, which was great. It was great for us and it was great for the project. So well done to everybody on that. In relation to the benchmarking, again, there were some key ideas in and around assessing gender equality versus the legal and policy frameworks. So we looked very much in relation to the benchmarking at a lot of the policies that were across the board. Just specifically, some of the results in and around the CAP strategic plans. And I suppose, as we all know, the last time the CAP strategic plans were, or the CAP was delivered, it was the first time there was actually an identifiable specific objective 8 that was relevant to gender. Where is gender within the CAP? And each country was given the option to put in something, plans, policies in some way that were relevant to gender. Did it work? Not a lot of work. Ireland and Spain were the 2 leading countries that did have policies. And we are quite willing to say in Ireland that there are some of those policies that feel need changing the next time round. So again, we're looking at that within an Irish context. So we did find that there was a lack of strong focus supporting women-led innovation within the CAP itself, despite this option being there for every country. We also found that rural development programs under the CAP, and particularly national agri-food policies, they lack the direct support that's needed for women-led innovation. And we did find that in different countries there were offerings, but in general there was a lack of support. And again, some of the national CAP strategic plans, Ireland and Spain in particular, did target entrepreneurial work for women, but in general there was quite a lack of support. So going forward, I suppose, this is very much one of the directions we need to look at in relation to policy. And again, the framework that we built in Work Package 1 was really the building blocks for the policy change that we're looking at now. We needed those building blocks to make sure that we could identify the policies as we went along. So I suppose our ambition for the FLIARA project is very much supporting the development of a more effective policy and governance framework and knowledge and innovation system that will really help or boost the innovative women that are out there doing the work that they're doing. And I suppose we're trying to do this in FLIARA by developing policy proposals. We're all at this at the moment, and policy briefs, and developing guidelines for policy benchmarking and directing, I suppose, and engaging with policymakers. And again, we're constantly doing this as well, trying to knock on several doors to make sure that we get the word of FLIARA through. And the working ideas that we have at the moment via the work that we've done in and around, and a lot of this will come out again over the next day or two when we go to the policy workshops and some of the policy work that will be delivered here. So at the moment, our working ideas are very much in and around greater access to finance, a change in the traditional norms and stereotypes that are there, and often the biases that are there in and around gender and women in farming and women entrepreneurs. We're looking for increased networking opportunities, access to dedicated education training. We have one of the most educated group of women within these entrepreneurial women in rural areas. But when they're looking for specific training, it is not there. Access to land was something that we also want to get engaged in and drive forward. Inequality trends in farm succession. We have huge conversations going on across Europe at the moment in and around farm succession, but those are very much targeted at young male farmers. And we need to make sure that those are also targeted to young female farmers as well. Again, representation in decision-making. Machinery and equipment was something that we originally had not thought about, I presume, I think initially, and we did some additional research in and around machinery, and we are finding that a lot of the machinery and equipment design is not designed for women. And again, that's something we want to look at. Work-life balance, those childcare options that we're continuously hearing about, enhanced ACAS access, agricultural knowledge innovation systems. When we did our interviews, the majority of the women had never even heard of ACAS, never mind being engaged in that system. Gender data collection and access, again, is something. I was at an event in Brussels yesterday. It was one of the biggest things that came up. Access to data, making sure we collect the data in and around women in farming and women in agriculture. Trying to do policy in the absence of data is something that's very, very difficult. So again, this is something that needs looking at. So in our work package 1, in our deliverable, our development of our conceptual framework, our data analysis, our assessment analysis, what we have done is we've come full circle. So the FLIARA framework, the work design that we carried out, is now leading us into the idea of looking at the FLIARA policies. And of course, all of this work is combined with the other work packages that have also been carried out. So again, our policy action for FLIARA at the moment, we are identifying those policies. We are looking at the foundation of the policies, how these policies can be adapted, how these policies can be implemented, but most importantly as well, if we do get policy in there, make sure it's evaluated to make sure that we've got the right policies. And that too becomes hugely important. So for me at the moment, that's work package 1. And I hope that we have delivered something that has been of interest to all of you. So again, Gora Míle Mágat.
As you can imagine, or as some of you might know, it's a great day to be here in Sweden from Finland, because for the first time in history, we know beforehand that Finland will beat Sweden in European Song Contest. One way or the other, because the Finnish band is representing also Sweden. When I think about Växjo, I remember Tuomas Kiiskinen, who made the decisive goal when Växjo won the Swedish ice hockey championships 2 years ago. He comes from my region, so it's nice. And when he came back to Kuopio to play in Kalpa, for the first time in history, Kalpa won the Finnish ice hockey championship. So in Finland, all that have the name Tuomas can make some magic. So that's important. Maybe I'll stop teasing you and tell you some results of the foresight activities we have done in the project. So it was the work package 2, and this is our approach and our mission. So we wanted to know how women could contribute more to the sustainability innovations that are needed to address sustainability problems in rural areas. And for that, we chose 9 regional contexts. I will show you soon. And first started with the sustainability problems. So we tried to identify the diversity of sustainability problems in different types of rural areas. Then we made visions. If the visions were realized, the sustainability problems would be removed. Then we went on to innovations. And the innovations were needed to realize the visions. And finally, we asked in the last step, what could be, how we could increase women's contributions to these sustainability innovations that actually address the sustainability problems that we have. These are, if it works, oh, it works too fast. These are our 9 regional contexts, so Southern, Western, Central, Eastern, Northern Europe, and also 3 types of rural areas, so rural areas close to city, rural villages, and remote rural areas. I tried to cover the diversity of the contexts, because contexts are the key. Here are some numbers of the process. We identified in each stage, we tried to grasp the diversity of problems and vision elements and innovations and measures with quite many stakeholders. But of course, our results are not representative truth of everything. They are more like insights. This is regarding the quite large numbers that we have in some of the steps, like 747 sustainability innovations. These are the key measures to promote women's contributions to sustainability innovations. For example, organization of platforms for co-creation and cooperation, provision of information about alternatives, examples, good practices, provision of education, gender equality, for example, vision-based policies. As you can see, these are percentage shares of the proposed measures. There is no silver bullet. The highest shares are something like 15% of the proposed measures. So you need many kinds of measures depending on the problem, depending on the context that might work for this purpose. And if you take a higher level of abstraction, you can say that maybe 80% of the proposed measures are social in character, like networks, cooperation, education, and only 20% are traditional hard administrative or economic measures like subsidies or reduction of bureaucracy or that kind of things. So that's quite and maybe not an obvious approach if you try to promote women's contribution to innovation, that you should start with social and not with the administrative or money. Again, a different kind of reclassification of the topics and looking at the different regional contexts, you can see that, for example, if you have 4 categories like networks, knowledge, prerequisites, and incentives, you need all these in all types of regions, more or less in same proportions. Maybe in the remote world areas, you might need more incentives, more knowledge. In rural villages, maybe more networks. But networks are the key, the most important type of measures in all types of rural areas. And then we also asked that, well, where are the possibilities for women to contribute? What are the reasons that they have possibilities to contribute to these innovations? Well, they have extensive networks, they have good educational background, they appreciate soft and social values, for example. And we also asked, well, where are the obstacles? Well, there's lack of demand for novel practices, lack of equality, lack of capital networks, and so on. And of course, these are important to observe when you plan maybe some measures or policies or projects that are observe the gender aspect. And then the last slide, here it comes, yes. So we had 5,626 open responses. We read them all, made conventional content analysis to have the categories. And what we could say based on these analysis, we can say that, well, the sustainability problems are quite different in different types of rural areas and also in different parts of Europe. The differences are quite high, and there are no kind of universal problems at the regional level. Many different innovations are needed, of course, to address these problems. So it's a mix. It's not the 1 or 2 important measures. We can say also that women had the most obstacles in trying to contribute to economic, technological, and political innovations, and least obstacles and most possibilities in contributing to social and environmental innovations. So we maybe or certainly lose part of the talent and insights and resources in political and economic technological innovations where there are these difficulties to contribute. Networks are the most important topic. So if you start with something, start with the networks, then you certainly get something done. And as I said, social measures are more important, more useful, more effective than the traditional administrative and economic measures. And of course, if you try to apply this kind of social measures, it's normally that you will have to work bottom up rather than top down to get these kind of measures working. And I think I've used my 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, so Sylvia and I will present the lessons learned from the interviews that the project did in all over Europe. Good. Yeah. Yes. Good. So in our work package that Sylvia and I have been co-leading, we have tried to understand and recognize women's role in promoting sustainable innovations in rural areas and farming. And put simply, if we know the pathway of those who have succeeded, we can also push for enabling mechanism for more female-led innovations in rural areas and farming. So how did we go about understanding these pathways better? Well, we did case studies across 10 European countries where we selected 10 women for each case study, so 20 women from all countries, considering the sustainability dimension and the typology of rural areas, ending up with 200 pathways of women in innovation. And we did these interviews last spring. The women we interviewed show very few common patterns when it comes to demography. So they vary in age, in family status, and how they made their project happen. However, most of them are quite highly educated. That stands out. And all women are portrayed with a fact sheet on the FLIARA website. So have a look there. Really inspiring journeys. The innovations are also quite varying, ranging from new services such as tourism, social agriculture, training, environmental and educational initiatives, to new products such as upcycling farm materials, microgreens and textiles. And we also see many enhancing local resources and the cultural heritage, while also supporting community engagement. There are innovative technologies that also feed into sustainable farming and sustainable animal breeding, such as farming as organic, as agroecological, low-intensity meat production, but also as multifunctional. And going into what we have learned from these 200 interviews, we see some clear challenges and constraints. We see a limited access to resources, such as access to specific grants and loans and funding and financial support, both for startups and for expansion. There's also a limited access to accessing information and securing land, and an overall lack of tailored support. For example, we see that funding opportunities are commonly focusing on economic growth and more tech than other sectors. We also see bureaucratic obstacles such as delays and time-consuming regulations that needs to be navigated. There is a lack of political support and interest in the innovations that these women drive, that also then hinders the development of their projects. Funds are difficult to apply for and comply with, and the competition is rather rough. Many also state that it is difficult in finding funding opportunities, even though they are out there. Women innovators also face difficulty in juggling caring responsibilities, as Maura also pointed out before. And this is due to a lack of access to social services, such as public preschools, daycare centers, and elder care services. There is also a challenge with poor service and transportation due to inadequate infrastructure. And lastly, we also have patriarchal social norms and expectations. That is a struggle for these women, and it is thus important to change these gender structures, gender stereotypes. But all of these women have actually been able to overcome these challenges and constraints and made some important impact.
Yes. So, no. Okay. Sorry. These women contributed to the development of rural areas in a number of ways and have positive impact on the economic, social, cultural, and environmental sustainability of their territories. The case study shows that these women are boosting the local economy, are creating new jobs, but they are also promoting social inclusion, for example, by helping to create a sense of community among local people, by providing jobs to vulnerable people, and so on. They are also spreading awareness about environmental issues and healthy lifestyle, showing how the benefits of living close to nature, but also the value of producing and consuming local products. Although these women are sometimes considered or seen as crazy for initiating innovative ideas in a still male-dominated context, the results of their activity are changing this vision. These women are showing that new ways of farming or breeding, working and being an entrepreneur in a rural area is a valuable choice. And in this way, they are also encouraging other people, especially young people or other women, to look at and start in farming and new rural business. The participation of women in network, as well as in farmer and entrepreneur association, organization, but also in the local institution, also turned out to be extremely important to amplify women's voice in policy discussion, highlighting their specific needs. So with all their activities, action, and projects, these women are challenging patriarchal normality and gender norms, and are showing through their innovative action, creative and sustainable ways to make a living in a rural area. So what, as Maura said, now we are trying to find, we are working on the policy design, and what we learned in working package 3 from the case studies, what is needed to better support women's innovation. We've seen that networking is relevant, as also Thomas underlined before. Peer, local, and wider network are useful for sharing and gaining knowledge, information, and resources, and for taking advantage of new opportunities. Networks should be supported not only financially, but also logistically. For example, local authority could provide spaces for organizing meetings, events, and so on. Then many experience we have studied are cross-sectoral, and many of the challenges faced, as Annie has underlined before, are also related to different policy areas. So this calls for more integrated policies. Another element emerges the need of targeted financial programs to support women innovation, as Maura pointed out before. Also in the context of small business, social projects, small-scale farming, more environmental friendly farming practice, mentorship programs are also suggested, where experienced women can guide the newcomers and best practice could be effectively transferred. Furthermore, the need for funding that does not require an upfront payment to receive the contribution was also highlighted. A more flexible legislative framework with a view to reducing bureaucracy, not only in accessing funds, but also in obtaining permits to start a new activity, has been suggested. Across country, we found that really few women know what ECIS is. It seems therefore necessary to improve the visibility and the effectiveness of ECIS. So, furthermore, access to information on the ability of a financial support program should be organized more effectively, also by promoting, for example, more information, more events at local level through the LAGs, for example. In addition, also within the formal education system, there is a need for training that is more tailored to women's needs, focusing, for example, on digital skills, sustainable farming system, and so on. In many countries, supportive sick and maternity leave policies, childcare facility, and after-school service are needed to facilitate work-life balance. Finally, in several countries, we found more than one project implemented in a public space or on a public land. So making this available, including through calls for proposal, could encourage women's innovation, especially when it comes to projects starting from scratch. In addition, promoting local food policy can support women's innovative practice as well as the creation of civil society public partnership, as we have seen here in Sweden in the case of the rice library that was supposed to be closed and now is open thanks to an agreement among the local municipality and 14 local associations. And finally, so if you want more information, you can read the 20 national case study reports that are already available on the FLIARA website. You can have a look at the FLIARA toolkit, which presented the result of FLIARA in an accessible format. You may also see the fact sheet, as Annie said before, and soon also the comparative analysis and 10 practice abstracts will be also available. Here you can see one related to just Sweden. And that's all.
Thank you all. And now I guess we have the next guest on Zoom, right?
Yes.
Nick is with us. In that case, now joining is Malin Tillman, professor from the School of Business and Economics at the Linnaeus University. Malin is researcher in female entrepreneurship and in rural entrepreneurship. And today she will talk on cross-sector collaboration and rural development, opportunities and challenges. You're most welcome, Malin, if you are there somewhere.
I am. Can you see me and hear me?
We can see you, can barely hear you.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? No?
Yeah, we hear you and we see you.
You can hear me now. Great. Hi, everyone. Yes, I am Malin Tillman, Professor of Entrepreneurship. Sorry I couldn't join you today physically, but I have been asked to talk about cross-sector collaboration for rural development, opportunities and challenges. And that I will do. I will share screen. And I hope you can now see the right screen. Is everything working? Yes. Good. So, cross-sector collaboration. I don't need to tell the people in the room why rural development is important. You are already very aware of this. But cross-sector collaboration, why do we need that? Well, it was just mentioned a little bit, but so the wicked problems in society that we are having and the different crises that we are facing require us to collaborate across sectors because one sector cannot solve all these problems. And the Agenda 2030 issues and the goals require collaboration. It has been argued, and it has really increased, as most of you have probably seen over the last years, these kinds of collaborations. It's been argued that joining forces between sectors are extra relevant for rural development because the inclusion of rural areas are important for economic development, but also for sustainable democratic development we have seen recently, not the least in a big Western country. There is scarcity of public funding, few businesses and fewer people, which we all know. And the different sectors have complementary resources, but also complementary perspectives when it comes to the sustainable development goals. Research is showing that the financially strongest sector is, well, it's often not the civil society, but it can be. There's a lot of local variation. So these joining forces is it's a discourse that it's becoming more and more important and should be more and more important, but it is also really vital for rural areas. But there are also a lot of challenges. There is a research debate going on to whether these challenges can be solved on a local level or regional level, or if it's system level problems that needs to be solved on a completely different level. But what we can do in the room today and the next coming days, what you can do and what we can all do is at least to have knowledge of the differences between the sectors and the challenges that exist, and see to do as much as we can. And I guess that is also why Annie asked me to talk today, because in the room there are a lot of people from different sectors. Oh, great. Thank you, Christoph. I can now see some people. Thank you. There are people from different sectors, from civil society, from private businesses, and from public authorities of different kinds. So there's not a lot of research about cross-sector entrepreneuring or cross-sector collaboration that I'm studying, involving all the three sectors, particularly not in rural areas. But there is research on each of these three relationships that you can see in the picture. So if we look at the first one, between private businesses and civil society, when they collaborate, oftentimes there is asymmetrical power. The private businesses are oftentimes the financially stronger. When goal conflicts occur between these organizations in a collaboration, there is a risk of mission drift in the civil society organization. That means there is a risk that they cannot fulfill their mission as originally intended, or focus on their target group as they were planning, because they need to adjust to the financially stronger partner. So that is something for civil society organizations to keep in mind, and for private businesses to respect, because otherwise we run the risk of losing the point with the civil society organizations. Between the civil society and the public authority, there is also often asymmetrical power when it comes to, well, there's decisions, but there is also the funding issue. It becomes clear in many cases, according to previous studies and our literature review, that the institutional logics becomes a problem. And with that, we mean the different ways in which the sectors work. As we all know, civil society is driven by commitment to the cause, to the target group. There's voluntary work for something that is heartfelt, and that is what drives the work and the idea that they want to work with. Whereas private businesses, of course, have a business logic. If they are not in there to make a fortune, they at least need to make ends meet on the last row. And the public authorities, well, yeah, we have them for democracy. They are democratically governed. They are run by politicians. Municipalities, they change. The governance change after the elections, and the politicians have a new agenda perhaps, and they are entitled to fulfill that because they have been democratically elected. And then we have the civil servants there, who, of course, their job is to make sure that we are following the law and to hinder any corruption or nepotism and anything like that. Of course, we're grateful for this, but it also creates a lot of tensions in cross-sector collaboration that we need to be aware of and to mitigate. And in the relationship between public authorities and private businesses, there is also these institutional logics, as I just talked about. Often legal issues as well come in. Here we have, for example, the Public Procurement Act as one of the issues that can occur. There is also a difference in timing. Private businesses, of course, are in a hurry for their profit motive, and the public authorities, they need to have due procedure, and due procedure in a municipality can take time, can it not? So this is where most of the clashes happened and where most of the challenges occur in cross-sector collaboration, according to previous studies. So a few years ago, we came up with 5 C's of cross-sector collaboration. That is the 5 things that is mostly needed for these collaborations to work. That is competence, intersectoral competence, to know and be aware of these different logics and to have boundary spanners, that is people who can go between the three sectors, who can understand the different logics and to interpret and mediate when things occur. For that, of course, contacts is also necessary, networks and meeting points, and capital, financial and human. We saw that when the public sector is cutting back too much or completely from rural areas or other issues that people are collaborating about, then also human capital runs out eventually. So that is an issue. Continuity, of course, collaboration is facilitated by long-term work. This is a problem when the political governance change, for example. And context also matters. There are different solutions to work in different places. And there's a lot of willingness out there, as some of you know, to find solutions. And those solutions need to be context specific. That is why we are currently looking at three different places, 3 different villages, one could say, in Småland. We're doing this within a project called Innovative Cultural Entrepreneurship in Collaborative Co-Creative Research, INCUIS. And it's about access to culture in rural areas through cross-sector collaboration. It's me, it's Annie, whom you all know, and Matthias Karlsson, who might also be in the room. And what we are studying is 3 places. One is Meeting Point Häradsbäck, owned by a local association. And the entrepreneur there, Mette Adolfsson, might also be in the room. I think I can see you in the front row. Yeah, hi Mette. It's Virserum's Art Museum, an association supported by a municipality, region and business. Matthias is following that. And it's Ryssby CSPP Library, the community-supported public partnership that Annie is studying, and that was just mentioned in their presentation. So we are following these and the different solutions that they are using and the different obstacles that they are meeting, making comparative analysis, and this year organizing exchange of experiences between these as well. Right. At the moment, we have only some tentative results from comparing 2 libraries, the one in Ryssby and the one in Häradsbäck. So from just looking at those 2 activities thus far, we can see that the form of collaboration, also the legal form, is not decisive for how it works, but it's more the mutual understanding and of the different logics and the willingness to solve problems that is important. We do see the tensions occurring on local level depending on the sectoral logics, but also the professional logics and the rural-urban logics. So those are new. It's about the librarians at the municipality having one perspective from their profession, and the local driving forces in the rural areas from their perspective. And also the rural-urban, whether the urban should come out to the rural and deliver the culture that they think the rural needs, or the rural area deciding for themselves. So there is a tension there as well in this collaboration. But it has been overcome and is being overcome as we speak in different ways. Funding is an issue at times, of course, but the organizational obstacles that we will be able to go into more when we finish the studies, but these obstacles are sometimes as large. Public participation is needed, also financially, also in these cases, but it's often not about a lot of money. It's about quite little money, but the organizational obstacles are in the way. And the need for funding differs a lot between different villages. Sometimes the funding is really the issues. Sometimes it's not. These other issues are in the way. So this is something that will be continued. But over these days, as you are collaborating and discussing with people from different sectors, it might be interesting to have this figure and these issues in mind and see if you can reflect on them. And it would be great to hear from my colleagues at the end of the conference if there is any reflections on this, any feedback back to us about these issues. So we will see in Småland from these 3 cases what will happen and can come back with more results. I guess time is up and you have a breakdown, but questions and comments are welcome.
Thank you, Malin.
Thank you.
It's some time for coffee break, or fika, as we say in Sweden. The most important time of day if you ask me. But please be seated until I'm done, because I have some important information for you. We have 2 different fikas. I will explain that in a minute. But first, please note that after the fika at 10:30, or should we say 10:40 because we are a bit late? 10:30, okay, short fika. 10:30, we go to the workshops. Do not return here. On your name tag, you will find information on which room you should go to, and you will find right now you are up for a treat. Ambassadors Innovation Journey. Annie Rose will chair the panel and introduce these 7 great ambassadors. First, yours.
Yes. Yes, we'll see it. Yes, I can hear you. Can you try to speak a little bit so we know that the sound is working for you? Here?
2, 3. Ja, här är jag.
Do you hear them? Yeah, good. Christoph's magic is working. That's good. Okay. So, welcome to the panel on the FLIARA Ambassador Journey. Today we are honored to have 7 of our incredible ambassadors who will share their unique innovation journeys with us. Each of them has made significant contributions in their respective fields, from wool production to the driving school sector. Our panelists will share their experiences, challenges, and successes, providing valuable insights into the world of innovation. And just as a spark can ignite a powerful bonfire, their stories will illuminate the path for future innovations. And Malin, can you start introducing yourself and your innovation?
Ska man ställa sig upp kanske? Nej. Okej. Malin Axelsson, and I have a company 1 hour from here, and I hope everyone come to go to my place in afternoon. So welcome. It's a property with slow tourism and ecotourism with a small hotel and apartment and summer house, and we have also some houses we rent out for permanent, and we say now we also have a eco village, and we have we grow food together and so on. And we have also some sustainability project, and this is what I think is there because I'm in this kind of group. We work with biochar and have an aquaponic system, and yes. So
Good.
Yes, move
Yeah.
on. So my name is Alexandra Larsson, and I own a driving school that are placed in the middle of Sweden, I would say, but in Dalarna, Gagnef and Borlänge, Leksand. So I started 10 years ago. This is my 11th year, and we also have a driving simulator that you can practice without actually going out in the traffic. Yeah, and I am an employer. I have people working for me as well.
Okay, hello, can you hear me? Yeah, so my name is Bláthnaid. I'm Bláthnaid Gallagher, and I'm very proud to represent Ireland as the ambassador for the FLIARA project. So I come with several caps. So I have the privilege of being the co-founder of a cooperative of growers who are looking for a market for their wool in Ireland. And my journey in this wool industry has discovered that all across Europe, we have the same problem. We have European wool that goes to Asia, and then we have wool from Southern Hemisphere that comes into our homes, into our apparel, into our universities. So I've been quite outspoken, and I've been an advocate on a voluntary basis for this small group who actually have a heritage breed. We have a very rare breed in Ireland. So that's the work that I do in the advocacy and in speaking and trying to give a voice for these growers. I also run a farm, which is what we call a social farm. And on that farm, I work with people who have intellectual difficulties, and they use the farm as an educational tool, a recreational tool to improve both their mental health, their physical health, and their well-being. And then I have another role, which is that I work with Farming for Nature, which is an organisation that's based in Ireland who encourages farmers all over Ireland to embrace nature on their farm and to farm in a more ecologically friendly way, and to feel the benefits not just in their pocket, but also in their well-being and in how they feel about how they go to work every day. And obviously, of course, really proud to be here as the Irish FLIARA ambassador. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rita Porkka. I come from northern Finland, a little village where I live with my family. And my company is called Naturest, and it's a nature-based company. We offer all kind of not only recreation and happiness out from the nature, but we want our clients also learn about sustainability and sustainable forestry as well. Before starting my company, I used to work for different rural projects, and there I organized these like outdoor learning workshops for Finnish children. And then I got an idea, why not to start offering these sustainability workshops for international groups as well. And that's how we started Naturest, to offer our educational travelers from Asia mainly content. Nice to be here.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Sonja Jokiranta from Finland, and I am the founder of the Care Farm Fields of Creativity, Luovuuden lakeus, we call it in Finnish. And I have developed a farm-based model combining animal-assisted, creative and body-oriented methods. And we offer therapy and clinical supervision and emotional skill coaching with experiential and animal-assisted methods. And our work is rooted in trauma-informed, experiential and very holistic practices. I've developed these methods now about 10 years. So Luovuuden lakeus is my 10-year-old child. And I've developed these methods to the public social services and also to psychiatric care and those who work there with clients. I've also done in last years also this special work, and I work as an educator, but also as a singer-songwriter. And tomorrow you will hear me more. Today I've published a song called Queen of Love, and I want to dedicate it all for you. I'm so delighted to be here, and it's an honor to have this ambassador mantle. So thank you.
Hi everyone. Thank you to Linnaeus University and thank you to all the FLIARA researchers. I'm Sofia De Matteis. I co-founded in 2020 Avamposto Agricolo Autonomo, that is a ethological donkey farm in Santa Caterina dello Ionio, a rural village in Calabria, South Italy. I promote outdoor education services and also slow tourism. And I work especially with kids, elderly people and refugees. And I'm also part of a network called We Are South, and we stand up for a lot of social fights. Thank you.
I'm Petra from Slovenia. I'm co-founder of a Park History organization that runs a volunteer center in the countryside. It's basically at the border with Italy. So what we do is that we host volunteers from all around the world. And basically, usually we host around 16 volunteers. And on a everyday basis, on a daily basis, we respond to the needs of local environment, which means that every day we go and do 2 to 4 different volunteering actions wherever we are needed. So since we are located on the countryside, a lot of our help goes to the countryside, helping these very small farmers, old farmers that cannot do everything by themselves anymore, old people many times just abandoned, living in very bad conditions. We do renovation for them, or sometimes we clean. We clear trekking paths, and in this way also help countryside to develop small-scale tourism. We go in elderly homes, we go to schools, we go to animal shelters. So we go everywhere that we are needed. That's what we do.
Thank you. You all have such inspiring stories to tell, so thank you so much for sharing them with us. And you as ambassadors of the FLIARA project may actually be the spark that makes someone else's flame start to burn, and that is actually quite amazing. But what motivated you when you started out? And coming back here to Alexandra, our ambassador from Sweden, what motivated you to start your innovation journey?
So I was working for 7 years for another company, and I came with a lot of great ideas, was my thought at least, and thoughts and development things that we could work with, but I represented this to my CEOs and nothing happened. So I felt that I wanted to grow, I wanted to do more stuff, I wanted to develop both towards people with NPF diagnosis and also through the technology by simulators and stuff. And that didn't happen when I was an employee. So I started my own business instead, so I can do what I want and take the decisions by myself. Popcorn brain.
A lot of nodding heads here.
Yeah.
And Petra, your project Parkistra started with a trip to India. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, exactly. Basically, with my husband, we are both geographers, and of course we do travel, and so it was traveling and volunteering at the same time. So there was one project, it was reforestation project in India that was organized also as a community of volunteers, basically doing something very meaningful, like digging holes for the trees. But in afternoon, we had enough time to socialize. We were sharing knowledge with each other. We had workshops for each other. We were singing. And I was, oh my God, that's how life should look like, you know, like doing something good for the world. And at the same time, I just felt so fulfilled. And I was, look, I don't want to live even a bit different from that. And this is how these dreams came, and we were just following them from that on. Yeah, luckily together with my partner, because that made it much easier, because it was not so easy.
I can imagine. And Sonja, like Petra, you also have a social service. You focus on social services with your farm, and is helping others your motivation?
Yes, I wanted to offer environment where people are really met with presence and dignity and warmth. And also I want to use these methods that I use because when you face trauma or suffer or loss, the words aren't enough. And then we meet that need that we must have something more than conversation. And then comes to animal assisted methods and art-based methods and body-oriented methods.
Sophia, you're also involved in a farming project. What was your motivation to take on the innovation journey?
Yes, when I started, I immediately thought that in a little rural village, your impact, the impact of your action is immediately not visible. And thanks to our approach, and also thanks to our outdoor education services and the efforts that we made to create alliances with other associations, other entrepreneurs, I think that this approach is winning because you can have a real impact, maybe more than in a city, because I experienced also the social activities in Bologna, for example, in the north of Italy. But in Santa Caterina, the energy was totally different because the bond with the community and the local, the indigenous people is something that is really strong, very strong, and it's easier in a certain way to stand up and to represent your community and your voices to the municipality, to the government. It's a narrative that is not very common because we think that if we are far away in an inner village, maybe we are not strong enough. But for me, it's not like this.
Good. Thank you all for sharing how it all started. And as you know, a motivation or a spark is not all that is needed for a project or a business or to become tangible. Just as a spark needs fuel to become a roaring fire, we will now hear more about the different aspects of the innovation journey to where you are now. And Rita, you talked a little bit about how you organized similar activities in previous projects before you started your forest workshops. And was that a key factor for taking your business from an idea to what you have today?
Yes, it was because I was studied like forestry and welfare effects of nature, and I had kind of tested these workshops in my previous work, and I had opportunity to create new kind of workshops for school children, and now that I started to think about my own business, I already knew how it worked, and especially when I got some information from my network that new kind of workshops and content had been needed to educational travelers, those children groups who come to Finland to enjoy their school trips. And I already kind of had this package to offer them. At the same time, I knew that there were several projects going on in our area that were related to this educational tourism. And because of my project background, I had good connections with those projects. So I knew persons to get involved. And I knew that there were more and more inquiries for these kind of activities for the groups, especially from Asian markets, China, India, Japan. So I would say my experience from the work was important, also networks, which I had. And finally, the third thing was that I was aware of different founding things around rural area. So I knew where to get money from to start. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good skill. Malin, you started with a worn down estate. How did you and your husband, that's also involved, manage this transformation? Did you use networks or any support systems to develop your innovation?
Yes, my husband is important. So, and because he can repair everything. Yes, the property have stand empty in 10 years. So it was lots to do, and we grew very slowly. And we network, of course. I say yes to everything. Maybe not now. I'm a little more. I want to get to know so many people I can, and there you get the people who believe at you, and like Petra say, also to share knowledge, and if you give energy, you get energy back, and it's always interesting to get to know people and get to know the colleagues in, and I want to know everything about other companies, and I think this have been a very important for me, and so growing slowly, and of course we also need little money, so it's 20 years ago, so there we can have a credit in the bank. Today I think it's have not worked today, men we have also get some money from Sparbanksstiftelse.
Yeah, like a founding.
With aquaponic house. So this was really good. And we have also get some money when we do a very big repairing of the, so now it's a hotel, and we start with a hostel, and it's an old house, and yeah, like it cost 2 million, and we got maybe 400,000 from det är ju landsbygdspengar, landsbygdsutveckling.
Like the development money.
Yes, yeah. And this was also really important. And to get to know so many people you can, this is, so I can say it's Malin from Ödevat, and not everyone, but many people. This is important.
It helps that you always wear this t-shirt.
Yeah.
Not the same t-shirt, I must say.
You don't know. It's very sustainability. You don't need to change so often.
Thank you. So, Sonja, you do very impactful work on a local level, local community level, I should even say. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, through our work, I think we have created many kinds of possibilities to increase emotional safety, trust, and connection, and to build new ways for people to engage socially, really meaningfully and with dignity. And I've also been an employee, so we have those workers, and we have also good connections to the local schools. And I think that I've built a strong partnership with educational institutions, and we have this in Finland, this well-being regions. So we do also work with them, and it wasn't really easy way to go, but we now do co-work with them. And of course we buy lots of things around us hay and everything we need. So I think there are many kinds of impacts. And of course, this innovation ambassador thing, it has been something sparkling in our neighborhood.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Blanne, your impact is not only on a local level, but also on a national level, with farms all over Ireland engaged in your cooperative. How were you able to reach out nationally?
By using very innate female organizational skills. So I think it's something that we forget when we're talking about innovation and we're trying to find, good words for it. But sometimes just as a female in organization, it just comes naturally. And I think it's one of the better skills that we have and one of the reasons why we've become great innovators in agriculture. So how did I do it? Well, even though the breed of sheep that I work with is actually called Galway, where we're from, breed can be found all over Ireland. So I used COVID actually as an opportunity. People were not allowed to go outside their homes. They couldn't go to football. They couldn't go shopping. They couldn't do all of these things. So I almost had a captive audience. It was like as if the cards all fell into place. So I was able to work with the Zoom technology and get them to, some of them maybe out of boredom just came to listen to what I had to say, So then I encouraged them to drive to one location. And again, I used another female trait, and that's feed them. So I would make tea and sandwiches and biscuits and I arranged with some of my friends to play some traditional music. So I had entertained them, I had fed them, and then all I needed to do was pay them. So I organized an industry partner for the last 3 years. We're still looking for an industry partner for this year. I organized an industry partner, and then so organize them, feed them, pay them, and pretty soon the word gets out. And we grew from 20 farmers the first year, 40 farmers, then we had 45 farmers. I don't know how many we're going to have this year, but it was all about just using the skill set that comes naturally as being a female innovator. And then one of the other things you said earlier on was, what sometimes sparks this need. And I think one of the first things I learned when I was studying innovation was it's actually quite simple. Don't complicate it. Find a problem, solve it, and you've become an innovator. So all of us have found problems in rural areas or in local amenities that were lacking, and you fill that gap, and then you've become an innovator. And similar to my process, I knew there was an issue within the Irish and the European wool sector. I knew that we needed to start talking about it, and I just decided that I was going to be the one that would start to blow the whistle. And that's how I see myself. I see a problem needs to be solved. If you want to be an innovator and you want to see social justice and you want to see justice for the people who aren't coming together to speak for themselves, then you just got to go in and do it. So seeing is doing, and doing is getting action done.
Thank you, Blanne, and all ambassadors for sharing how your ideas ignited into tangible projects. And now let's delve into the hurdles our ambassadors face on their innovation journeys, exploring the obstacles that try to extinguish their flames. So Petra, starting with you, you have experienced issues with finding stable funding for Prakistra. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, basically, of course, every beginnings are hard. But I would say even bigger problem was to find the infrastructure, because to start this kind of project, and you need to have such a big infrastructure, a big house, like a hostel that can hold 16 volunteers, it's not so easy, especially if you don't have money, to buy like maybe 2 million euros or so much you would need for that. So luckily, after few years of already being out and moving from one village house to another and so on, one local woman, when we were helping the village, said, what about these army barracks, on the top of the hill? They are empty for 20 years. So this is how we got our infrastructure. And again, it's not ours. The contract is valid just for 2 more years. And just now we are in negotiations of prolonging it. So hopefully we will keep the infrastructure, because if we don't, it will be very hard. So this is basically the biggest struggle, like the funding, of course, it's also, but somehow now, I don't know if you know this European Solidarity Corps program that is basically supporting volunteering organizations so that volunteers can come and all the costs are covered, like from accommodation to food. So basically, in this way, we can live, survive, like organization can work, and somehow it's covered. I mean, we'll see how it goes in the future. You can never really rely on it, but you know, we will do things as long as we can, and as long as we are also supported, because more than that you cannot.
Yeah, a struggle, it sounds like, yeah. And Alexandra, you grew your business Rosa Kortet rather quickly. So what are your main challenges or barriers right now in the stage where you are now?
Right now, it's making profit that is hard. It's hard to get money left over. It all goes back into the business at once for everything, every cost you have. Driver, instructor, teacher is not known for high salaries either. So we are working with small margins. So that's a big struggle, because when you want to develop, now we are starting up motorcycles and an entire new education. It costs, of course, and it's hard to save up money to do new stuff. And the EU Parliament is working on this fourth driving license thing. I don't know that. Yeah, directive, exactly. And if that goes through, which we think it will, the entire map of driver license will change for the entire Europe, maybe. So then we need a lot of money to buy new vehicles and replan our education. So profit is a hard one to make it sustainable. Yeah.
And Blondie, you're nodding a little bit here. Even though your business is very, very different from Alexandra's, do you face similar challenges and barriers?
Well, for me, our business we're actually not for profit. So our business is more about advocacy and about explaining the message, and about, so the biggest difficulty I have, I suppose, is the consumer. And you are all a consumer here in this room. We are all consumers. Is the consumer is not aware of how crooked the supply chain has become. When I go and I tell the story, people think, no. And then they do a little bit more research themselves, and then they go, oh gosh. So for me, I could get more support from policy and legislation. And it goes back to the whole EU. We have the EU product passport coming in 2030, and it would be wonderful if people who grow fibre, whether that be flax or whether that be wool or hemp, all across Europe, that they would be included in that EU product passport, and that we, the consumer, I mean, would no longer be listening to words like sourced. Sourced means it was bought locally. There's no representation of the farmer. There's no representation of the grower in all of the story. And the retailer, the merchant, the crafter, everybody's included, including the person who actually spins the yarn. They're all included. But I want to see the face of the farmer. Whether she's male, he's male, she's female, I want to see them getting the just recognition that they deserve as part of this story. Because we have an international supply chain that is wrapping the picture of the, well, for me, it's the Irish farmer into the story for the consumer. It's part of the marketing. But that farmer is not actually part of the actual story. So for me, I'd like to see a lot more education for the consumer. I'm just one person. And it's difficult to go to every event and to talk about the story. I'd love to see more people blowing the whistle. I'd love to see more people standing up for these farmers all over Ireland and around Europe. And I'd love to see a little bit more protection for you, the consumer, so that the consumer now is aware. Because for me, when I start my journey, I don't know, I use this analogy. I don't know what sport I'm playing. I don't know where is the referee. I don't know what's the jersey. I don't know which side of the football pitch or the game I'm on, because there is no rules, no regulation, there is no active campaign, there's no other team that I can become a part of. So I'd love to see a little bit more unification across Europe to represent people who grow fibre, because with such importance coming now with sustainability and fashion and all of this, it's important to say, well, why can we not include agriculture and rural economies all over Europe growing their own fibre, substituting the polyfibre, not recycling the polyfibre, and having all of the people who work in rural areas throughout Europe, and especially in Ireland, rewarded for being part of that move towards a more ecologically friendly production of products. So I would like to see more policy and more protection for the consumer.
Thank you. And thank you all for sharing such inspiring journeys, both successes and challenges. And as I said before, every great fire starts with a single spark. And what advice would you give to other women in rural areas who want to ignite their own innovation projects? Sophia, do you want to start?
Yeah. I'm a young woman, so I'm advice. I need advice, but maybe keep in mind that you are part of a context. So act considering not just your business, but also the community where your business is located, especially the migrants, the elderly people, the kids, and also the animals. And the geography, the politics, the history of your place, because from all these categories and from all this information that you collect, maybe you will have more advices than from another person.
Thank you. And then Malin, what advice would you like to give?
Yeah, yes, I talk about networks, so this is very important. Advice is maybe also to people who help women to start and to listen at them and to give them energy, because sometimes you only need little energy, and we don't need so much help. We do the most ourselves, but it's only if we get little energy, so or some help somewhere, it take us long way. This is to find the people around you.
And before you talked about saying yes, and you, or some of you also did that, but how do you know what to say yes to? $1 million question, maybe.
Maybe say yes more often. I have no good answer. If you know many people, you can also ask the people, what do you think about this? Because you have always someone you can ask, who you can,
Yeah, and concluding, Rita, what advice would you like to give to women who are about to start their innovation journey?
There's been so many wise words. I would say about how do we know when to say yes, is that to trust your intuition and don't give up your values, because if you sell your values, it's not good for you, it's not good for your business, it's definitely not good. And yes, accept all the support you are offered. And I would say that work and do business with your heart as a woman, but price your business like a man.
Good, thank you for that. And now I'm actually going to go a little bit rogue, because apparently you're on Swedish effective time. Because the questions are out and we have like an hour left.
Oh my God.
So now I'm going rogue. So now I'm going to ask the audience if there's any questions that you have for the panel. And the panel, if you don't feel that you want to answer, just let me know. Okay, it's perfectly fine, because this is the unprepared part.
Can I just say one thing before on the support? You've all met Ursula. Yeah, Ursula, she's my fellow ambassador. And one of the things we talked about last night was that sometimes it mightn't feel right to be kind, but be kind to one another. And we're so driven nowadays to be doing something for enumeration. It's like, you give me, I give you, you give me, I give you. But she would be a typical example of somebody who's always giving and not expecting something to receive. And I think that's something that we should implore more, because that sometimes can come naturally as a woman. And I think that's something else that we should not be afraid to do, is sometimes you will do something for someone, or you will give something to someone, and you won't get something immediately in return. And you need to play the long game, because it's sometime in a year or 2 years or maybe 3 years that kindness will come back. So thanks.
Okay, do we have any questions? Yes, wonderful. Otherwise, I would have started to dance or something.
Thanks, it was great. I really enjoyed. But now I might have 2 tricky questions for you. You managed to spend some time together and listen to stories of each other. Did you have any kind of sparkles in starting some international business together? Because there might be some connections between many of you. So did you start any kind of international, transnational networking partnership among these ambassadors? We are ambassadors. So this is the first question. And the second question, Sonia, you gave me the idea, but it's the question for all of you. How do you intend to capitalize this title of FLIARA ambassador in your community, in a regional context, or perhaps even on a national level? So I would be very glad if you could provide, not just to me, but the whole audience, exact answers, or perhaps ideas how to fulfill these 2 missions. Thank you very much.
I think 2 of the ambassadors have already started a small business. Are they here? 2 of the ambassadors. Mika, and you're working with someone else?
Yeah, so we have more, there are more FLIARA ambassadors than these here. We have Ursula and Mika. And yes, Linda, thank you. Yes, so there's more.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them about the project that you've done?
Yeah. Yeah, I was sharing this morning in the Vita of the ambassadors that I'm ambassador from the Netherlands together with Annette. Annette was in Ireland as well. And we met each other at the airport and start talking. And now we're collaborating because we know each other from FLIARA. So Annette, she is the director of Harmon de Hof in the Netherlands. And that's accommodation next to an education school in the anthroposophic way of farming. And she said that on her plot, they have housing for 120 students in the moment. But she said there are a lot of hormones running around. And I'm the one who creates a community, a mixed community with families, with elderly people as well. So she asked me to help her to create new housing for families and elderly people on her plot, so that there will be a mixed community. And in Bioterra, my company, we have the experience to negotiate with authorities about building and to create building sites and that kind of. So we really find each other in FLIARA, and I will meet her next week again, and yeah, we build together. So thanks to FLIARA is going on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else want to take up on? Wonderful.
I can share. Me and Sarah, who isn't here today, she's from Italy. We talked when we were in Italy in January about the big problem. I think every country has this, that elderly ladies haven't been driving for maybe their entire life because the husband is driving. And then the husband maybe gets sick or ill or die even. So we talked about me coming down to Italy with my driving car and being a female instructor, getting these girls back on the road. So we will see if that happens, but we hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Linda?
Yeah, I'm Linda Kelly. We have an organic farm near the Lake of Constance in the south of Germany. This is my first meeting here with FLIARA project, and yeah, my husband is from Ireland, so maybe my brother-in-law has a lot of sheep, so we can. He has the same problem with the wool, so we can discuss later.
Yeah.
But you also had two questions.
The FLIARA capitalize on it. I can tell you I worked in an all-male environment all my life. Ag college, all boys. Defence forces, all boys. Agri-industry, all boys. I even worked in the construction industry, and it was all men. And this was the first female project that I've ever worked in that was being so female dominated. And I was very frightened. Coming into this environment, I felt more comfortable where I had been for the last 30 years. Because I hadn't worked with a group of women like this at this level. And it was even ironic that it was about women. And it was about, pushing the female voice further and more central into policy making. I can't see how I'm going to capitalize on it in any other way other than giving me strength and courage and belief that working with women is just as much fun, just as exciting, and just as safe as I found myself working with men. So I've got something very personal from it, rather than something that I could push, a euro sign beside. Yeah, so.
Anyone else?
Yeah, for organization, NGOs like having good reputation, and so that people trust us. That's all we have. We don't have money, So it's important for us, And also, I already asked our university if they could give us support letter. As I told you, we are running out of the contract for our infrastructure soon, So I'm sure this kind of support, recognitions are helping, so that also those on the top can recognize, the role that we have, in the society. So it is important for us, and some kind of, it gives us encouragement and also a lot of inspiration for me just to see so many strong women that are following their dreams, that are courageous. All the good practices, I'm always thinking, maybe I need this forestry thing. I need to find out more so that I can share with others. I know one person that would be perfect for this in Slovenia. And also, I'm always looking from this perspective, also how to support others in a way. So I think it's beneficial for sure. And we get a lot from this.
Wonderful. Anyone else want to add something? Or no?
Just a short one.
Go.
I think we must enlighten this innovation and innovation power, because I think the world is full of systems and structures, and I think that innovations starts there where system ends.
Yeah.
Yes. Nice creative use. Thank you. Do we have any good Pia here? Pia is one of our speakers tomorrow.
Hello everyone. I hope my voice will hold and also do tomorrow if I'm speaking. I'm a literary scholar, so I'm thinking about stories and narratives and so on. And I want to pick up on what Malin said, that sometimes you need a little bit of help, a little bit of extra energy. And I was wondering if you have had any role models or any stories or that kind of help that has given you energy or some spark to keep going. Has this been important to you with stories?
Yeah, wonderful question. Anyone wants to, Lana?
Yeah, go back again. You think we have what to say? Girl crush, yeah. Yeah, Ursula won Ursula has struggled in the industry. I'm sorry, Ursula, but you're not here to speak for yourself. No, she put up a good fight within the industry that she's working in, and she managed to win the fight. And not only did she win it, but she's now gone on to fight bigger battles. And you know, there are times that I feel very kind of, oh, why am I doing this? And I think of Ursula. I think of Ursula, and I just say to myself, I think of the journey that she was on, and I don't know where you got the strength from, but you did. You overcame a lot of hurdles, and I'm sure there are a lot of other people here in the room, and sometimes it's somebody else's problem, and their ability to solve it that actually gives you the ignition. You know, I mean, you just say we shouldn't compare ourselves, but at times you do. It's just natural. You just do. And I just say, right, Ursula was able to manage this, and she had a far greater battle than you have. So keep going. And that's sometimes all you need is you just need somebody to bounce off, or even the WhatsApp group that was set up. It created a nice little bit of energy now coming to the event this week. This week, you know. So sometimes it's just like what you're saying. It's the small things. It's not the big. It's the small little things, and lots of the small little encouragements make for big support for each other. Yeah.
Rita, you also want to add something?
Well, I think I'm from a very strong women family. Well, I have 3 daughters, and I'm in a female family, yes. And my grandmothers were really strong women, and I think I got my guts from there. Yeah, and they are my inspiration, definitely.
And I know, Alexandra, you also come from a business family, and that has impacted how you see life. Right?
Yeah, of course. My dad runs his own business, started with my grandfather. They own a workshop. But there's a big difference between us, though. He just floating around, going with the flow, and I'm like driving a big jet streamer. Like, I want to go there, and he's like just going around like this. But of course, the independence you get, you can decide if you want to work or not work, or how you make your schedule each week. That's a big freedom thing, as long as you can be free, because doing your own business, it's always in your mind. You're never really off work. So it's a big balance, yeah, between that. But I can say, to get inspired, it's as nice it is to hear people succeed and go forward with their businesses. I think it's just as inspiring to hear the struggle, to hear the hard parts, because when you are starting your own business and you're in that bubble, and maybe you have employees, you get quite lonely. You feel like you are the only one in the world with these problems, and you're not. We all have the same struggles. So that's great to hear that you're not alone. That makes you work a little bit harder. Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah, Petra?
I can share, because this guy is really a hero, so I think it's good to tell. So basically, it's Pedro the Brig. I mean, he's a missioner, or how you call it. Basically, Slovenian from Argentina that went to Madagascar. Basically, he's taking people from the waste fields, and he created the whole cities where these people got their homes, and he created jobs for them. And like, you know, for me, it's such an inspiration to see that some people are really like changing the world, you know. So like, yeah, it's also inspiration for what we do, like step by step, you do something for a better world, like, and everyone can do something. Yeah, so.
How did you find this figure? Like,
I saw a documentary about him, and I was so impressed. And I said, when my kids grow up, I will go and help there. Because it's so, I think you can also see the documentary. It's so inspiring.
Yes. Thank you.
I also think about, I have another company before, where we sell boots and things, and there you not help each other so much. But when you work with tourists, I feel like everyone want to help you, because if it go better for you, it go also better for me. And if you come to the really green way, like sustainability way, there everyone want to help, because everyone have the goal to a better world. So there you so many history and stories, and many people who do. And this is also what we have to tell, the good things. In maybe we can have another news canal.
So none of you have Trump as a role model? Or no? No, okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Louise.
Hi everyone, thank you. I think it's just been wonderful again, and our fourth and final. I don't think we could have chosen a better 20 ambassadors that have, you know, really spotlighted what we wanted for our visibility campaign. You've been everything and more. And a moment ago, somebody mentioned, you know, women are of all groups from our life cycle. And I guess for this, in our community of practice, part of this is to feed our policy. And our policy may not make a difference for you right now, because there is a time lag with policy, but it is for the future girls. And I saw a trend recently: if you could take your 14-year-old self out for coffee, what would you tell them? So I guess my question is, what would you tell young girls right now? What could be your advice to young girls now sitting in school, from all the way from 6 all the way through to later in life? Would there be advice you'd give young women now, who hopefully the policy that you're feeding into will change?
I've always had an attitude, this might sound strange now, and I need to put the words around this properly. I never knew whether I was a boy or a girl. And what I mean by that is, when I went out to do a job, I just did it as me. Do you know what I mean? So like, I never really, like, of course, when I woke up in the morning, I knew I was female. Like, I'm not trying to bring that into it, but whenever I went out to do a job, or whatever organization I was in, or whatever task I was ever given, I did it as me, not as a he or she. And do it well as you, not as a he or she. And I'm not trying to advocate for an androgynous society, far be it. It'd be very boring for me anyway. I love men. But I just think that we need, when we're taking on tasks and roles and projects and jobs, community services, you just need to do it as the best person you are, and let whether you're male or female not define you. It has to be what's in your heart and what's in your head, and in what you believe you can do to make either the world or the community or the employment or the people who are working for you better, by being good, by being at your best, and by inspiring them as well as you, not as he or she.
Thank you.
I have a granddaughter, and I would say to her that don't listen to your mom. Do what you want.
Why would you say that?
Do what you want, don't listen to your mom, because I think I have given stupid, you know, yeah, when my kids were younger, and now I can see how good they have been taking their own bath. Yeah.
Don't tell that to my kids, please.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to? Yes.
Maybe just this, because don't listen when they tell you that it's impossible, because maybe they didn't find a way, and that's all. At the beginning of our project, every day of our project, me and Rafael, no? my mate, the co-founder of Avamposto, every day, a lot of people told us it's impossible to own more than 1 hectare in Santa Caterina. It's impossible to live in Santa Caterina upper part, because Santa Caterina is divided from the coast part and the inner part, and we live there in the remote part. And it's impossible to collaborate with that kind of category, or it's impossible to be part of the municipality because they are like locked structure. And then after 5 years, we own our 10 hectares of land. We own our own house in Santa Caterina Superiore. We built our own association. I'm the president of Prologo, that is the main social association of Santa Caterina, and they didn't have this association since 10 years. Then, and just believe and be obviously responsible, but don't listen, it's impossible, because it's an awful word. And,
So my advice for sure would be go and see the world, you know, just don't stay in Slovenia, but I don't think, of course, come back, but you know, you should see the world so that you can understand better. And I would tell them that, yeah, they should listen to their heart, to see what are really the things that they love and how they can contribute to the world with this love that they have in themselves. And that also that, yeah, as they say, you know, if you have a dream, nothing will stop you. And at some point, even if it's so hard, you will succeed.
And what you're saying also links back to our visit yesterday at the Emigrant House. We were at the Emigrant House here in Växjo. And there they talked about the immigrants leaving for America, but many of them also came back. And it's those who came back who sort of maybe sparked or ignited or something what happened here in Småland after that, which also our Vice Chancellor will talk about tomorrow. So we'll see if I'm correct or if he has another story. We'll see. But yeah, it's really nice. Anyone else wants to talk a little bit more about that?
I can say what I would say to a young girl today is figure out your own needs. Like, what do you want, or what do you need for you to feel good? Is it continue dancing? Is it, like for me, I did rabbit jumping for 30 plus years, or is it painting, or what is it that makes you feel you and feel okay? Because when you go into the working bubble and starting your own business or being a mom or whatever you do, it's so easy to just go in that circle. So you need something to pull you out and just be you.
What's rabbit jumping?
You jump with rabbits over obstacles, competing
So it's
like horses.
Horse jumping, but with
rabbits.
What? Once you were at the national competition, right?
Yeah, I have some good play. I'm the elite. I was the elite. I was the elite. Yeah. Yes.
So you make the rabbit jump?
Yes. Now they jump, but I hold them in the leash. Yeah.
Like dogs.
Yeah, like agility, but not really. Yeah.
Well, you didn't expect that, right? FLIARA keeps on giving. People.
So I feel like a farmer too. I had like 35 rabbits at once.
Anyone else want to tell their young self or another? No, Sonia?
Just shortly.
No, not shortly. Take your time.
I would say that don't let anyone define your worth. The system might overlook you or say you're crazy, that or that's impossible. Don't listen to them. Don't let anyone define your worth in social media, or what your how you look, or where have you born, or anything like that. Yes.
And I mean, many of you also meet these young people, both when they learn to drive, and Rita in your workshops, and Sonia when they have issues, and Sophia as well, and also you, Petra, you actually meet the next generation. Do you tell them this to them? And how do you tell it to them?
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, this is something that I didn't tell, but for us, this is one of the very important part of the project, is that basically volunteers, young people, and also people with fewer opportunities come to our place, and we have the whole program of workshops for them. So basically every 2 weeks, instead of work, we do workshops with them, from nonviolent communication to emotions, mental health, how to plan their future, meaningful future, how to recognize competencies, all these kind of things to empower them and yeah, so that they grow at our place, you know. And many times I would say, I always say to them, look, you came to give, but we want you, you know, really that you grow, and really we want to empower you so that when you leave from here, you feel much stronger, much more authentic. So yeah, this is what we do, like really systematically with them.
Good. I think Mika has
Yeah.
a question.
I'm happy you say that, Petra. I realize that in all of my projects, I always ask people when they're young or older or stuck, what is your dream? Because when you connect with your dream, you will find a way. And I had also a sentence in my company, and it's called, we are more sorry about the things we didn't do than the things we did. So, yeah, the only thing what can happen is that you will find a new way, because one way don't work. But not trying is more hard. And yeah, and ask support. I think that's also the one. And there are always a lot of advices, and really look at your own heart, what it means for you. That it's a good advice, or let it go. Yeah. So yeah, don't feel sorry to take another way, and yeah, you can turn always.
Good, thank you. And speaking of that, dreams, does anyone want to share sort of their next step in their journey? What's happening in your businesses or projects now?
I come to tell it later.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a new industry partner, and if that comes along, we have made a transition from wool having no value into maybe having not just a good outcome for the breed that I represent, but for all of the breeders. Because I think I'm starting to talk so much about it. I think hopefully it's going to hit home what's happening. So for me, it would be just to see this success of what we've done at a smaller level scale up for the whole country. Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be my dream.
Nice dream. Anyone else want to share a dream?
Maybe I can start cooperating in Italy with the forest outdoor.
We talk about this a lot.
Yeah. You know, find a new way to take kids outdoors. Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, my dream is that there would be this kind of volunteer centers all around, because I really believe that every region would need one or two. And yeah, there are some people that are thinking about it, and I really hope that we will be able to support them with the knowledge that we got, so that they don't need to start from the scratch.
Yeah, and linking back to what Pia said, I mean, you are role models now for a lot of people. Like you said, Sonia, about the mental. That is kind of cool, right? Yeah. Maura, next question.
Yeah, well done, everybody. As usual, you're so inspiring, and we have just definitely picked the absolute right ambassadors as we went through our journey. But I suppose for our FLIARA journey now, and for all of the partners, we're working away with the policy, and this becomes quite important for us. It becomes quite important that we get this right, and we have selected and thought about many policies in relation to what we should present on a national basis, but also what we should present to the European Commission. And these policies are ranging for looking for ideas in and around public-private finance, to access to land, to childcare services, to additional public services, to a range of material that we've presented this morning, but also later. So I suppose for each of you, if you had one policy that you thought that we should bring forward on either a national basis or a European-wide basis, what do you think that would be?
And I think for me, Maura, in Ireland, the most pressing issue that I come across is the transition and the handover of land. I don't know if that's a problem throughout the rest of Germany, but there aren't enough young people in farming, male and female. And we know that there still is, even though I was very fortunate, I did inherit a farm. Probably one of the few people in Ireland where the uncle said the girl can have it, you know. But I just think that for me, what's really hitting home on the ground is women not being getting into farming because they're not being left the farm. The farm isn't being transitioned, and you don't have to die to move it on. You know, you could just work at transitioning over. And I think that's one that breaks my heart, is that I think a lot of male and female young people are being excluded from getting at the farms at an age where they really need to be there. And that's in their, after they've travelled, come back from the travelling, yeah, and get at it. Like, I'm tired now. I'm in my 50s and I'm actually tired already. I do all the farming on our farm. And I do find it starting to physically feel difficult. And I just wonder, imagine if I'd had this when I was 30, do you know? I'm not wishing my uncle dead, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of farms out there where there could be smooth transitions while there's still somebody alive. And to remove this, I called the farm Murray Meadows. So in Ireland, there's a thing. It's almost like if you give it to the girl, the farm would lose its name. Or like, at least if there's a fella taking over, it'll still be Kelly's farm. Do you know what I mean? Because it's because the guy took over and he'd be thinking. So what I did was I called the farm Murray Meadows after the last man from that family who lived there, who was Murray. So it'll always be Murray Meadows. So then the farm never lost its link with that family, even though it's not my family name. So I just think, yeah, I'd love to see really heavy hitting think tanks going on around what kind of tax incentives or what kind of encouragement more encouragement can we do to see that that transition happens far more smoothly, and that these conversations happen when people are alive and when they're well, not when they're almost ready to die. That would be mine.
Thank you. Anyone else want to highlight?
I think that the way how you take your driver's license must be, well, it is, in Sweden, we don't have that much we need to do before you take your driver's tests, but that can be reevaluated, and to get some more education that you have to do before you are finished. And also afterwards, when you have your driver's license, I think it goes for all of us. There's no education afterwards. Yeah. You get your license when you're 18 and then you can drive your entire life. And somehow one day you're maybe not supposed to drive anymore. And there's no control of that unless you get very ill or drunk, I guess. So, yeah, because it's all the statistics is showing that education and updated drivers gets the accidents down. So it's for traffic safety, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to highlight?
Maybe I would just say that the way that these funds are now, how I would say, distributed, that many times many organizations are getting funds because they write things very well, and at the end they are just mixing fog and doing really nothing. So much money is just like. So if there would be a way to distribute money and really give it to the projects that are really bringing benefit, not, you know, I think this is a big problem, and we are losing a lot of money and potential in this way. And I'm very critical towards our sector, and you know, because it really depends on European funds. But the way things are done, you know, just to get done, you know, and like it's not how it should be. This would be my.
Maybe one thing related to what Petra said, that we need this more down to earth mentally, I don't know, network for the starting companies and good ideas to share, you know, the knowledge how to get money out of the system, and yeah.
And especially on the countryside where a farmer is everything. He needs to sell, he needs to produce. Like,
Yeah.
how can you have all this time that, you know, you write the projects for 1 month and then you don't get funds, you know? It's just impossible, you know? So to have this kind of support system for these farmers, or, you know, because they cannot do it by themselves. It's just impossible.
Yeah, usually, sorry, rural companies, female-led companies, they are quite small. Like our company, it's like 3 person, me, myself, and I. So if I can close my legs. So there's no time to find solutions. Yeah.
And maybe Malin, you will tell us a little bit more, but you're actually undergoing a generational shift or succession shift right now. Yeah, but maybe you can tease a little bit of how that's working.
Yeah, it's to stop before I'm 84. so I'm so lazy, so I want to stop already. No, sorry, I want to work little with other thing, and so we have a solution. We have find a couple who rent a piece of our place. So we are now, instead of only one company, we are 2 companies and 4 leaders. So, and you come to meet my colleagues, and this is fantastic. And there you also need to be modig, brave.
Yeah.
To you have to share the company, your baby.
Many hard decisions.
Yeah. Yes.
We look forward to hearing more about that later. Yeah. But Ursula, you have a question, right? Or
Well, I just wanted to come back on what Maura had spoke about. It was just as it's our last community practice, and just I think if I had one wish leaving this behind, it's about finance, and I really feel that would be the one wish if I had it. And until we come with a fund to fund farm diversification projects, and when it takes into different pillars in terms of the social, in terms of the economic, and the different enterprises that have been showcased across the FLIARA project, I think if we de-risk that from a female perspective, I think we might have huge inroads. The education piece and some of the other pillars, we need to find it in ourselves to go out and ask for that mentorship, that education. We can find the solutions around childcare as we already do. I think the finance piece of it, I think that if we can get that from out of Europe, we'll be doing really well as a result of FLIARA. No pressure, Maura. That's for our 14-year-old daughter, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Ursula. Good. Anyone want to comment that? No. Then I think Mika had another, yeah?
Now to the question what the European Union has to do. I think what I was thinking about the last half year a lot is that the structure of European Union and a lot of government is very masculine because it's in sectors instead of that we connect things with each other. When I see in the moment in the Netherlands, we are focused really on nature. And then people are talking about, okay, we have to protect nature and that's the most important. And of course, biodiversity and nature is important. But when you change something in the laws about nature, it will influence all kinds of other laws. And what I think what we really need is that we are at the table together with the different approaches. Because when we only focus on one topic, to make the change, you influence a lot of other topics as well. Like, for instance, when you have a farm and you want to be productive, you need to have monoculture because then you can have big machines and that kind of thing. but for biodiversity, it's very bad. So for me, it's really about, okay, have a wider perspective, not focus on one topic, but be aware what influences other topics as well.
Thank you. Good. Yeah, thank you. Any other final questions from the audience?
Maybe just one.
Yeah, two more. We can go first with Nasrin.
No, that just to complete the Mora part.
Okay, we complete the moral part first. It's okay. Sure.
Don't forget the inner rural villages of Italy, because 10 kids is enough to have a school, 30 elderly people, it's enough to have a health public structure. If you think about inner rural villages just like a touristic place, we are going not with it anymore. We need the public facilities. And also, if we are not so much, we need it. Because I listen with this here that the kids of my village, they are 10 kids, okay? And they say, Sophia, here there's no one. And every day I have to tell them, you are no one. No, you are someone. So, public facilities for us, please.
Yeah.
Not just for the cities and the metropole of Italy.
Yeah, I think a lot of rural areas in Europe can write under that. Yeah, thank you. Now, Nasrin.
Hello everyone, I'm Nasrin. So I can see there is a huge knowledge transformation in this room, and I'm really blessed to be here. Thank you, Ani, for that. So my question is like, since you are the founder of a very nice, like all of you have very fantastic organization, and so I would like to know how you handle your failures or setbacks, not only as a founder of organization, but also as a woman, if that had any impact in your life, I don't know. So how did you handle your failures or setbacks during this process?
I find first of all, I have a very good husband. To be honest with you, I have to bring him on, bring him into the picture today. He's very good, and he listens to. We have an expression in Ireland: after something bad has happened, you have a rant, and it's generally when you go on the phone and you go, you verbalize, you just let it all out. Sometimes there'll be tears as well, and then you pull yourself together. And then you get on the phone and then you say to somebody, okay, what do I do next? You know, but for me anyway, it's to have a good rant on the phone or with him. It helps. Yeah, just, I don't know if what other word we use for a rant, rave. Yeah. Ranting and raving, yeah. You let it all out, yeah. Don't box it. Well, that's just for me anyway. Don't box it.
Anyone else want to share?
I agree.
Yeah.
Let it out.
Yeah, you have to have somebody to be there.
And there is help to get, like talk here in Sweden, we have like this organization where I can attend as a member, as an employer.
Yeah.
So if the employees get help from their organization, I can get help from my organization. So don't be afraid to get help, because they can fix it and they can talk for you and sort things out. And then, of course, cry, hug someone, and get back on track.
And go to the forest.
And go to the forest, hug a tree. Yeah.
Exhale.
Yeah.
Petra, do you want to say something too?
Like, I mean, if it's a dream, then you really just go for it. And for instance, for us, it was like we already renovated one place and then we lost it. So then, you know, it was weeks without sleeping and stress and everything. But then we were all like, okay, it's our dream. We will find different solutions. So then the next solution was we were just moving from one village house to another and having volunteer centers then. And then we got, you know, so basically we really need to be very solution oriented, you know, so not to go into negativity, but okay, we will find solution. We know what is the dream, we know what is the path. So we will find a way. Camping, could do like whatever is needed, but just go for it. And at some point, also the good solutions come.
Thank you. Good. Then Pia, final question.
Yeah, thank you. And I was so happy you asked about failures because I was going to ask about success. So from failure to success, what is success to you and how do you go about measuring it? When do you know that you have had success?
Tricky question.
When,
Yeah, Sophia? Yeah.
When Dr. Silvia Sivini, I thank you, involved me in a FLIARA project for after 5 years of Avamposto Agricolo Autonomo. Then that night I spoke with Raffaele, my mate, and my other friends of the association. I want to say their name: Valentina, Adele, Giulia, Annalisa, and for the first time, they say, maybe this could be relevant in a bigger context. That was one moment. So thank you to
For getting recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it all depends on how you measure success. And I found that down through the years, we've all started to, well, a lot of people, I won't say we all have, but a lot of people have started to measure success on monetary gain. Right now, for me, it's having a good day's work, meeting some really nice people, telling one more person about the story of Irish wool, putting my head in the pillow, having a good night's sleep, and getting up the next morning and doing it all over again. So to be able to successfully go through a day feeling really happy, and at some point in time, hopefully making other people happy, is for me success. So, I mean, I would be delighted if I picked up the phone in the morning and I discovered that we had a new industry partner for our small little cooperative. But I've started to get to a stage in life where success for me is more than just business. It's personal, it's health, it's well-being, it's creating wonderful memories that you'll always never forget. That's probably getting a bit too philosophical, but it's part of my journey. So that's what I measure my success on it right now.
I agree. And we have every single driver license that are finished and done are a success, of course. Every student that is finished is a great success. But also as an employer, I actually celebrate every month when I do their salaries. And I have money on my account and I can give them 13 families their salary. So that's a success. And I celebrate that every month.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are different kind of successes. So for me, personal one is to live a balanced way of life, so sustainability towards myself. And the other one is, of course, when I don't know if there is a person with a leaking roof or person without a toilet in the apartment, and then we do it, it's of course it's a success, that this person like her life will be better from now on. And the third success, the way I see it, and it's for me, it's one of the nicest ones, are when volunteers write to us many months after they leave that it completely changed our life and that they are different persons because of what they experienced. And at that time I feel, yes, that's exactly what I got from this project in India, and now I'm just passing it on. And yeah, this is
Thank you. Yeah, and with those wonderful words from Peter, we are closing this panel. And I would like to thank all of our panelists, our wonderful FLIARA ambassadors, for sharing their inspiring innovation journeys with all of us. I think that their stories have truly ignited a spark in all of us, at least. And if you want to know more about the ambassadors, there are the fact sheet exhibitions out here, and all of the 200 women innovators are available on the website, as I've said before. Repetition is the mother of knowledge, as we say in Sweden.
And all the Swedish innovators can be found in the booklet if you want to read about them as well in English.